Greetings to all the students. Once again, we are here with a new biology lesson, which is the continuity of our previous topic of transport system. And we have seen the structure of heart and the process of the blood circulation. Today, we will see what are the different blood vessels and what actually the blood vessels are. So, blood vessels are actually the organs. They are the tube-like structures coming out of the heart and going back to the heart. And they are the organs because they are made up of the collection of the tissues. And the main blood vessels are the arteries and the veins and the fine branches which makes connection between arteries and veins are called capillaries. So you can see here in this picture, you can see the red one is the artery. So the good blood, the oxygenated blood is going to the artery, and the oxygen and the nutrients are given to the cells, and the waste materials are collected, and these are the tiny capillaries which are actually making the connection in between arteries and the veins. So the oxygen nutrients are going to the cells, and carbon dioxide and the waste materials are picked up, so they are going back to the venous side, and so the blood will go back to the heart. So this network, which is right in making a connection in between arteries and veins, this network is called capillaries. So capillaries are extremely very thin. They are so thin that they can fit in between the cells, and they are made up of one cell thin lining. So we will see now the differences in between arteries and veins. So in this picture, we can see what is the difference in between arteries and veins. So this one is the artery. This one is the artery, the first one. The second one is the vein, and the third one is the capillary. So what is the difference we can see in between them? See the thickness of the artery and the thickness of the vein. So you can find that artery is much more thicker than the vein. Then you can see that right in the middle, this diameter through which the blood passes, this empty space, this diameter, this is called lumen. See this lumen and see this lumen. This lumen and this lumen. So you can find that in arteries, since the walls are very thick, so the lumen is small. But in case of veins, it is thin walled, so the lumen is bigger. Arteries are more elastic, so when the blood passes through the arteries, they can stretch, but not the veins. Other differences in between arteries and veins is arteries carry oxygenated blood except the pulmonary artery. And arteries are carrying always the blood away from the heart. Veins are the blood vessels which takes the blood back to the heart, and they will always carry deoxygenated blood except the pulmonary vein. So we will see in more detail. This is artery and vein. So you can see in the arteries, you are not finding any valves, but you can see the valves in the veins. Why? Because in case of arteries, the blood is going away from the heart. So there is no chance that the blood will go back, ascend. The blood is not going to ascend. But in case of the veins, the blood is going back to the heart. So there is chance that the blood might flow down. So there are valves. The valves will open, the blood will pass, and the valves will close so that the blood may not go in the reverse direction. So once again, let's see what differences we have in arteries and veins. So you can see arteries are thick walled. You can see this wall, and veins are thin walled. Arteries carry oxygenated blood. Veins carry deoxygenated blood. Arteries carry the blood away from the heart. Veins take the blood back to the heart. Arteries have a small lumen. Veins have got a big lumen. See, this is the lumen. Veins have got a very big lumen because they are thin walled. Arteries have a small lumen. Arteries have no valves because the blood is going away from the heart, so there is no chance that the blood will ascend back to the heart. But veins are taking the blood back to the heart, so there are chances that the blood might flow down. So there are valves which prevent the backflow of the blood. And we have seen the exception of the blood in case of the uh, pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. Now let's see some of the differences in the table form which might help you to write down the answer in your exam. Like what type of the blood arteries and veins contain. Keeping in mind that the exception is for pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein. So arteries carry oxygenated blood except pulmonary artery. Veins carry deoxygenated blood except pulmonary vein. Arteries take the blood away from the heart, veins take the blood towards the heart. Arteries always carry the blood at a high pressure. I will again explain you why. Veins carry the blood at low pressure. Arteries have a small lumen because they are thick walled. Veins are thin walled, so they have a large lumen, and capillaries are very small, very tiny, very thin, so they have got a very tiny lumen. Arteries are thick walls and they are more elastic. Veins are thin walled and they are less elastic, and capillaries are only one celled thin. Arteries do not have any valves. Veins have got valves. There are no valves in the capillaries. Another difference is arteries are situated deep inside the tissues. Veins are situated near the surface under your skin. So in your wrist and in your palm, you will find these blue color vessels. Actually, these are the veins. They are even visible because they're very much closer under the surface of our skin. But the arteries are deep inside. This is the reason that when the doctors give the injections or the saline, so that will be intravenous, not intra-arterial. Why? Because arteries are deep inside, so it's difficult to locate the arteries. Veins are very much closer to the surface, so it is easier to locate them. Why injections are not given in arteries? Because arteries are very much thick walled and it is difficult and painful to prick them. Why the injections are intravenous? Because veins are thin walled, so it is easier to prick them. Another reason is that arteries carry the blood at a high pressure. So if we prick an artery, there will be more blood loss, but not in the veins because veins carry the blood at low pressure. Now you see, we will now talk about the difference, the exceptional case of pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein and high pressure and low pressure of the blood. So you can see this is the right atrium and this is the right ventricle, and they carry deoxygenated blood. So from here, the deoxygenated blood will go to the lungs. So these are the two pulmonary arteries going each to one lung. So this is one lung, this is another lung. So see this, since it's an artery, why? Because it is taking the blood away from the heart. So this is the only artery which is taking the deoxygenated blood away from the heart. Rest all the arteries are taking oxygenated blood away from the heart except the pulmonary artery. Now see, pulmonary vein, all the veins are bringing the deoxygenated blood back to the heart, but the pulmonary vein is bringing the oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the left atrium. So pulmonary vein is the only vein which is bringing oxygenated blood back to the heart. Why? Because it is bringing the oxygenated blood after gaseous exchange from the lungs. So this is the slight exception you have to remember. Then why did we say that the arteries carry the blood at a high pressure and the veins carry the blood at a low pressure? The reason is that you can see this is the left atrium and left ventricle. So left ventricle, we have already learned in the structure of heart, is more thicker. So it pumps the blood at a very high pressure. So aorta is carrying the blood at a very high pressure. And now whatever the branches of aorta are going to different parts of the body, they carry the blood at high pressure. Why? Because they are the branches of aorta. And aorta is carrying the blood at a high pressure because aorta is collecting the blood from the left ventricle, which is thicker, and it squeezes the blood, it pumps the blood at a very high pressure. So this is the reason that why arteries carry the blood at a high pressure, but veins are carrying the blood at a low pressure, because the blood is coming back to the heart from the whole body via veins into the right atrium, which is thin walled, so it cannot hold the blood with a high pressure. So this is the reason that the blood in the veins is circulating at a low pressure. Now we will see that these are the arteries. Arteries are taking the blood. The blood will pass through these capillaries. Let me mark it with a different color pen. So the blood is going, the oxygenated blood is going to the arteries, and from the arteries then the blood is going to the capillaries. And here are our tissues, our cells. All right. So when the blood is passing through the capillaries are so thin that they are made up of one cell thin epithelium lining. So when the blood is passing through the capillaries, blood plasma leaks out. So this blood plasma, let me mark it with yellow color. So the blood plasma leaks out and there is a watery liquid all around our cells. Or you can say our cells are surrounded by a watery liquid. So this is the watery liquid all around our cells. So this watery liquid, which is nothing but the blood plasma, and it is been leaked out of the capillaries. So we are going to call it tissue fluid. You can see it is written here. We are calling it tissue fluid. What is tissue fluid? It is a liquid. It is a fluid surrounding the tissues. Where it is coming from? From the capillaries. When the blood is passing through the capillaries, the blood plasma leaks out. But imagine that heart is pumping the blood 72 times in 1 minute. So 72 times in 1 minute, the blood is passing through all these capillaries. 72 times in 1 minute, the blood plasma leaks out. So won't it overflow? No, it won't overflow. Why? Because some of it will drain back into our lymphatic system. So these green color branches which you are seeing, they are the branches of our lymphatic system, lymphatic vessels. What is lymphatic system? It is a system which helps us in fighting against the infections, our immune system. So in our body, there are network of arteries, veins, capillaries, lymphatic vessels, nerves throughout our body. So the lymphatic vessels are the vessels in which there is a liquid, tissue fluid or watery liquid, blood plasma, in which there live lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are our white blood cells which produce antibodies. So this tissue fluid which has been leaked out of the capillaries, some of it will drain back into the lymphatic system, some of it will drain back into the venous side, and some of it remains all the time all around our tissues. So what is the importance of this tissue fluid? The importance, this tissue fluid is of great importance. What is the importance? It is acting as a medium in which all the nutrients and oxygen diffuse from the blood vessels, float or swim in the tissue fluid and then diffuse into the cells. The waste materials diffuse out of the cells. They will float in the tissue fluid, they will swim into the tissue fluid and then they will drain into the venous side. So it is acting as a medium for the transportation, for the movement of the molecules into the cells and out of the cells, into the blood capillaries and out of the blood capillaries. Another thing is that the consistency of this tissue fluid and the cell cytoplasm is same. So it prevents osmosis and plasmolysis in our cells. So let's see. Significance of tissue fluid is it is the blood plasma that is leaked out from the arterial end due to the high blood pressure. It drains back into the venous end. Some of it is surrounds the tissues, and some of it drains back into the lymphatic system. It prevents osmosis and plasmolysis, and it is acting as a medium in which the nutrients and the waste materials, they float, and they are coming and going out of the cells, in between the cells and the blood vessels. That's all for today. I hope you have understood this topic. Very soon, we will have another class on the different components and the functions of the blood cells. That's all for today. See you in the next class. Bye bye.